Therefore, whatever we were doing that was working in 1957, we cannot do the same thing and expect to yield similar results in 2023. So our teaching methods, our curriculum, our
Hello guys, welcome to another exciting episode of the Let's Talk Education podcast. Day in, day out, we just seem to be bumping into, remarkable organizations and individuals who are doing really exciting stuff in the space of education. And today we are talking teacher professional development, right? We are going to get insights on an organization that aims to see student outcomes transformed by offering teachers a lifelong network of support, professional development, and practical skills for an ever-changing and ever-challenging classroom environment. When I saw this on the website, I couldn't agree with it more because wow, the classroom is changing, really, really fast. Today in studio, I have the pleasure of interviewing the regional lead West Africa of Instill Education, Madam Sarah Osei. Welcome to the Let's Talk Education Africa podcast.
Thank you, Kwame, and I'm happy to be part of the wonderful work you and your team are doing.
Awesome. It's really exciting to have you here. You know what? Let's get into it. Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. That $1 million question.
Right.
Myself, my name is Sarah Osei, the basic school way, and I'm a higher education management professional. I've been in the industry for more than 15 years. My strength is in organizational development, operations, quality assurance, performance, and project management. I do everything education. And my work experience spans for both for-profit and non-for-profit settings across Africa. I am so much passionate about education, and my stronghold is advocacy for professional conduct in leadership. Currently at Instill Education, I have oversight responsibilities for Ghana and the Anglophone West Africa. And I'm also the co-founder of SDF Foundation Africa, another Pan-African non-profit non-governmental organization committed to promoting quality education and skills development in Africa. So I have been in the teacher education space for a while now. And I'm still contributing to teacher education. My past organization, I worked to train higher education students or learners across Africa in mathematical sciences. And I'm happy to support the foundation of these talents. The teachers themselves build capacity in their areas and become the professionals that we want them to be. And then lead towards improvement in learning outcomes in our societies.
Really interesting. So you've lived, you are living, breathing education. One of my favorite questions to ask all my guests is, with the way you are passionate about education, and I'm seeing the different organizations, some you've co-founded, some you are actively being part of, etc. Could you share with us a context, a particular context in your childhood that you believe has influenced this path that you are on, which is education?
Great, thank you, Kwame. I never set out to be in the education sector, even though everything around me is education. So I come from a family that two professions are very notable. Either you're a teacher or you are in the medical field.
Oh, wow.
And by no bias, I would say 90% of the ladies are in teaching. So teaching was just something that you blink your eye, you see teachers around you. But I never set out to be a teacher. But then family, and when you come up in the family, if your father is a farmer, technically you have some farming traits in you.
Yeah.
So I started with the university, the women as my mentors. I had no understanding. I read education. I read education as a first degree at the University of Cape Coast. I majored in English and then religious studies, philosophy. But then I realized that I wasn't the classroom teacher, because all teaching I did was in national teaching practice. That's 3 months work. I go to it and I'll come back broken than ever. But I love education. So I told myself, in what means can I be in this profession without necessarily going to the classroom to teach? And that's how come my passion for supporting education systems, for promoting changes in education started. I got the influence from infancy, from family, and by association, I got the opportunity to be mentored by one of Ghana's finest mathematical physicists. I was mentored by the late Professor Francis A. Alote. I also got the chance to work closely with Professor Jofosana Mamemsa. He's the brain behind Ghana's curriculum. And I've worked with laudable educationists in Ghana and around the world. And that has shaped my passion for education. So it's all coming from people around me.
So, going back all the way to your immediate family, was it like your mom or your dad? Were any of them teachers? None of them?
None of them. It's my aunties, okay. my big brothers and cousins, they were in that position.
You touched on something that I want us to unpack a bit. You mentioned, with a few moments you went to the classroom, you always came back broken. Could you expand on that a bit?
I guess I wanted my learners to understand more than I knew. So I am thinking they should think like me. They should accept things like me. They should live my kind of understanding. Okay. And that is how much I have come to appreciate teacher capacity development a lot. Because when you evolve, you get to understand the learning journey. You get to understand your audience, your learners' understanding levels, how to bring everybody on board. I guess at that time, I had no understanding. I was clueless. So I've come in and I think I have to support as much as possible. So if you don't get it, it just wears me out.
Meaning that's the patience elements that came with teaching. You really did not have at the time.
I had the patience, but I gave more. So I don't know how to put it, but then as an early teacher or trained teacher, let me put it that way, I had a short time. You go to class, you have 40 minutes to do all the things you have to do. And you have different kinds of human beings in the classroom. Those who are just, before you drop your sentence, they catch the phrase for you. The high IQ guys. And you have those who are zero. And to me, at that time, everybody should be on that same level.
Right.
So that involvement, that inclusivity, collective growth, I wanted it to happen at the same time in my 40 minutes. I didn't know how do you support learners struggling? These were things that at that time they were not taught. You figure it out in your classroom. So my learners who are struggling, their burden became my burden. And that was wearing me down a lot. Yes.
I mean, that points to, the level of passion that you had for teaching and imparting knowledge, because I can feel how you wanted everybody to get what you were, get and understand what it is that you were teaching. That's really interesting. I'm sure I'll book a separate episode to talk on that.
Exactly.
Do we have, a shortage of teachers and educators first in Ghana and on the continent? Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, I do 100% agree with that statement. Okay. There are shortage of teachers in Ghana, there are shortage of teachers in Africa and the world at large. If you follow trends closely, the recently released Global Monitoring Report indicates that no country in the world is presently on target for the 2030 SDG targets that we set for ourselves. And all the 17 targets, SDGs, hinges on education. SDG 4 is the one that carries it. If you can take out hunger. If you are not educated, how do you do it? You can build infrastructure and all this. It's all bottles down to education. So it's worrying that we have shortage of teachers. And more worrying is the fact that just this morning at the UN General Assembly, we are being told that we need to enroll a child every 2 seconds between now and 2030 if countries are to achieve the 2030 targets. And that is very worrying. Forgetting about, yes, you're talking about the learner, but what about the one who is going to teach that learner? As far back as 2017 or so, UNESCO projected about 70 million teacher gaps for Africa. And I think that gap has further stretched because at that time there was no COVID, there were no learning losses, there were no closing down of schools. So focusing on Ghana, the teacher-student ratio, especially at the secondary tertiary level, they are quite high. And this is further stretched by teacher attrition rates. And the fact that people are retiring and we are not replacing them at the rate at which they are retiring. All these are leading to gaps in our teacher levels and creating a lot of shortages in our system.
That's quite the bleak, picture you paint. Okay, I'll put this on hold for now. I want to, because of your, the experience in the space, I want to ask your take on COVID-19, and how it affected education. What's your take on that?
Right. COVID-19, we talked a lot about COVID-19, the negative impact, of course. We have a whole number of things happening. We have families grieving. I don't want to even go into the casualties, the level of pain it brought to us. But from an EdTech point of view, as an education person, I'll look at it from that angle. Prior to COVID-19, our mostly in Ghana and I'll say South Africa, our trainings were mostly in person, face-to-face interventions. Although we've been talking about EdTech, traces of open learning, open distance learning, and all those, yet we were more heavy loaded on face-to-face interactions. So if at that time, 2016, if you asked me what was the meaning of distance learning Ghana or in our parts of the world, I would say it's a type of learning that you don't have time to go to regular university, so you schedule weekend for you and we put you in a certain group, meet somewhere, and then go through your lectures, and that was distance learning to me. Fast forward, COVID came, and then the realities just dawned on us. We were not prepared, so we had to shut down our schools. Then we have to grapple with how do we quickly get students in. For the basic level, it was highly catastrophic. We tried to do radio learning, community radio learning, TV learning, but then how many people, especially in the rural areas, high poverty rates, have even access to television to continue learning? And how long can you span? Because there's electricity bill, there are other things that piles up. Yeah. So we had these learning gaps. But fast forward, COVID brought us to the speed of accepting certain things that we thought were challenging. So we had to accept the fact that learning cannot be done face-to-face only. There are other mediums of learning that we need to embrace if we want to catch up with the other parts of the world. Therefore, we embraced online learning, we embraced blended learning, whereby you can now sit at the comfort of your home. You don't have to leave or move to anywhere to access learning. This, in a way, has liberated a lot of people who hitherto wouldn't move out, especially women. Women have lots of engagements, mothers, husbands, wives, family, whatever the responsibilities are huge. So accessing learning, accessing knowledge, building your capacity in your profession, let's say a female teacher, building your capacity, moving from one place to other, is one of the things that was kind of challenging. But then if I can sit and after cooking, doing everything, I can just hop onto my mobile phone and start learning. Then learning is brought to me at my doorstep. And this is one of the things that for me, COVID brought closer to us. Another way that COVID also helped us is to reduce the cost associated with accessing education. Apart from paying my fees and everything, I still have to commute to my resource center on daily or weekly basis. The time, the money, these are things that you could save to do other things. So in education specifically, COVID has been good in quotes, in that it has accelerated the pace at which we were accessing technology. And we've come to realize that whether we like it or not, technology in education has come to stay. And it's better we reposition ourselves to adjust to this new normal so that we can catch up, we can be part of the community of the 21st century. So that's what I take from COVID.
That was really good insight you shared. So clearly you are, on the side of the fact that COVID came in, proved to be, that's catalyst that changed or, directed our focus to the fact that there are other mediums and ways of accessing education. And so, especially post-COVID now, as a complementary tool to face-to-face, the COVID has brought about a certain change, which, if we're able to understand and then push forward in a proper manner, it would inure to the overall, benefits
Exactly.
to all, which is
Exactly.
really good. Anyway, let's talk about this amazing organization that you're part of, Instill Education. Tell us the story of Instill Education.
Instill Education, I'll take it from on a loose way from the founders. There's this Congolese Indian guy who has contributed a lot in the space of education and invested in education, but has so much passion for Africa and Africa's development. So he thought about, how do I contribute to the narrative of education and where do I cut my cord? Realize education is very broad. So he looked into the foundation of education, that is teachers. If you have a good teacher makes a good learner. We all are able to do the things we are able to do because of teachers, one way or the other, influenced and shaped our thinking, and that has brought us to where we are. So this gentleman by name Alim Lada set out to do the unthinkable. He got support from other colleagues, Evan and Tom. They started Instill Education way back 2015 in South Africa. At that time, there was no COVID, but then they envisioned a stage whereby technology would definitely be part of education. So it started as a blended approach way of supporting teachers' build capacity, and COVID hit us. So because Instill had prepared itself, we had modules that could quickly go online to support teachers. And by the support of the MasterCard Foundation, we quickly put together our learning interventions, our training manuals on a learning management platform called Upskill at Instill. And that is how we started accelerating our work. So Instill Education is a Pan-African EdTech higher education institution focusing on teacher capacity development and professionalism to reposition Africa towards achieving continental and global education goals and improved learning outcomes. After 2015, it started in South Africa, but presently we have operational offices in Ghana, Kenya, and then we are working in tandem with the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria to build capacity of teachers in Nigeria. The vision of Instill is transformative leadership, teaching and learning in every, and our vision is to inspire a new generation of expert teachers and school leaders. So that is in a nutshell about Instill Education. Our interventions are focused on every African teacher 21st century skills to address the professional development gaps identified in our countries of operation and also to meet the needs of 21st century learners.
So I checked your website. I saw the bit about the transformative teaching, the research-driven education, and then which you're supposed to translate in being the best in class. And I wanted to unpack the bit about the transformative, teaching. Is it that the way teachers are doing things or have been doing things for a while now is outmoded and needs change? Because I'm looking at, there have been arguments from different quarters about the quality of teachers we had, and I look back all the way from even when did we even get independence? 1957, right? The sort of teachers that we had all the way now. What has made, or what is making people in certain quarters make statements like the current crop of teachers we have now are not up to standard, right? Or are not transformative in the way they deliver education as compared to, post-independence, specifically in Ghana?
Right. You see, education evolves. Education is very dynamic. It's not constant. In 1957, the population of Ghana was very small. The population of the world itself was very small. The needs of that community or that period are not the same as the needs of this level. Therefore, whatever we were doing that was working in 1957, we cannot do the same thing and expect to yield similar results in 2023. So our teaching methods, our curriculum, our inspections, everything about the education trajectory also goes through changes. If you follow trends in Ghana education, we've gone through about 4 major education reforms. First one, post-independence, the increment reforms, saw other reforms. Then not too long ago, reforms that we started going through from 2018, that led to the ESP Education Strategic Plan 2018-2022. We saw certain changes in the world. The world is very dynamic. Technology wasn't there in 1957. Therefore, it will be weird to go through that curriculum and look for technology in education programs there. Even as not too long as the 1984 reforms, there wasn't technology in education. 2004 reforms saw a bit of technology in education, and we grow. Society, Ghana is not in isolation. We are part of a global world, and we look up to what is happening. We are not training graduates who will only stay in Ghana and work in Ghana. Our graduates should be able to compete. Our citizens should be able to take world leadership roles. And how can we do that if our foundation is not solid enough to meet the standards? So I wouldn't say that education now is bad compared to that period, but we are evolving. As changes happen, like the human body, when you are born, you are little, you don't know anything. Somebody feeds you, teaches you how to walk, you crawl, you begin to walk for yourself. Somebody thinks for you at a point in time, you think for yourself. That's the same thing happening. As changes happen in the world, even just some 4 years ago, the way our education structures were going, the way our teaching, our capacity building, our classroom engagements were going, are not the same things happening in 2023. Therefore, there's the constant learning. There's the need to upgrade yourself on regular basis to catch up with trends in the world. I wouldn't say our teaching standards are bad. When you look at the reforms that has taken place, moving from the previous curriculum to the standard-based curriculum we are practicing now, the focus is on learner-centered education. The focus is on building competencies. What set of competencies can one have to be able to attain mastery of a certain level? And this is where, as a nation, our direction is. But as you know, my brother, change doesn't happen over the night. change is gradual, especially education impact cannot be churned out in a month to 6 months. Sometimes it will take 10, 20 years before you realize full impact of some of the reforms that we've taken. So I'd rather be patient, but not also to rule out the fact that we should work out our system such that we meet the needs. For instance, COVID has saved us. Now we don't have to force ourselves to be building brick and mortar classrooms to harness education. If we build our infrastructure and internet connectivity so well, people can stay at home and still enjoy education. The the National Center for Distance Learning and Open School, STENDLOS, for instance, has lots of materials to support secondary school learners. If you are on how do they call it? It is iCampus. You can do there and work on your science practicals. You can do your acid-base titrations and all those things there without not necessarily not going to the ground to put water and those chemicals behind. So education is taking us, and technology is taking us somewhere. Our education is evolving, but there are challenges, I must admit, because we are not going at the pace that we think we should go. But there's work to be done, and once we are committed, once we have the goodwill to do it, and once we are having a change of mind, accepting these changes in our systems, then it's not too late for us at all to catch up. We will do it, and we will catch up with the global north, and we will compete effectively.
Your optimism is evident, and it's very infectious as well. So it allows all of us to just have some hope, and put our hands to the wheel and know that in the near future things will definitely look bright for education in Ghana and in the continent at large. Sarah,
what you are doing, sorry to interrupt you, what you are doing is a form of education.
Yeah.
You are advocating for these things. So the more it sinks in us, the more we have positive mindset on it. Absolutely. It brings about a change. You may not see it immediately, but gradually, the more we talk about it, it sinks to our system, and we want to lead the change that we talk about.
Absolutely. You're absolutely spot on that. Good. I'm enjoying this conversation so far. Sarah, what has the journey been like? Providing these professional programs to teachers, educators, and so on.
Yeah, I will be honest with you. It has been tough, but fair and rewarding.
Okay.
I have been in this teacher training terrain for a while now, and never has there been a time that teachers are so proactive and craving for knowledge as now. As in working with Instill and then on the EdTech platform. Instill Education, as I said, entered the Ghana education space in January 2022. And by December 2022, we had trained more than 40,000 teachers on our EdTech platform in partnership with Ghana's National Teaching Council. How can this happen in such a short time? Because our traditional mode of delivery is to move from one place before you get to the other, and hardly will you get even 5,000 in a year, let alone to talk about 40,000.
Yeah.
And yes, as of 2022 December. And participants on our training programs are from all the regions, the 16 regions in Ghana. So we didn't say, let's start from Accra or let's start from somewhere and see how it works. We did a first pilot, and it was a national pilot for 5,000 teachers. We opened our platform for just 6 days. We were looking forward to opening it for the full 8 days or so. And by the 4th day, we had been oversubscribed. We had 5,462. So we had to shut it to learn from the pilot. And from the pilot, we had very wonderful insights, which I'll share a few with you. One of the things that came out was the ratio of male to female participating in our program. It was just like 70-30, 70 males, 30 females. And wow, that was intriguing. It means women are not accepting EdTech. They don't want to learn. There's the passion, but they don't want to go beyond the brick and mortar means of learning. Another learning that came out was, we have the perception that internet connectivity is very poor in our rural areas, even in the cities. During the day when it peaks, then everything is slow. We are a day economy. So when everybody goes to bed, our internet is very apt and learning. But from the pilots, we had about 60% of our participants coming from rural Ghana. So this was quite challenging. Defeats what we always think, that internet connectivity is very poor. Another thing that came out was how relevant are our models. We wanted to see the contextual viability of our models to the existing systems in Ghana. And we had over 90% saying the models were contextually relevant and they were easily applicable. So after these learnings, they were huge. We didn't want to keep the findings to ourselves. So we launched a program. We brought stakeholders in education spectrum together somewhere in July, and we launched the pilot report where the Minister for Education was the keynote speaker. The takeaway from the pilot was that it was wow. Teachers were so much intrigued and they crave for knowledge. So it gives us the opportunity to say, okay, let's go beyond pilot. Let's go for a program itself. This time, let's not limit the duration that people can apply. Let's open it up. And throughout the program, it was an 8-week program. It was opened. At the end of the day, we had male to female ratio, almost parity. 42% of females were on the program. And this corroborates with research that women are slow adapters to technology. And once they get hooked on it, they stay with it because they don't want to change off. And whilst men, you play with technology. So the excitement, you want to change. And the outcome were not quite different. The same rural folks were high than even our city folks. So we went ahead to test at what time do people come on the platform to learn. And the answers that came out, our platform peaked between 10 p.m. and say 2 to 3 a.m. That's when our city is sleeping. Internet is fast. Even where you have very low internet, you still get the opportunity to do something because the city, there's not much we're going. And why would a teacher commit his or her time to such an odd hour to learn if the learning they are taking was not relevant, if it was not supporting their cause? It told us that they really appreciated these new learnings that came out, and they will spend time, commit, stop their sleep, and commit to gain knowledge. And that was something that we were so proud of what we were doing. And we picked lessons from it. We used to operate on a learning management platform. You realize that a majority of our teachers assessed our learning on mobile phone, more than 90%. So why don't we make it very flexible for them? If I don't have a laptop or a device that I can connect, does that stop me? Now we have the Upskill app where teachers, they don't have to go and get any computer or anything to learn. Once you have an Android device, you can learn on your own. And these are things that we are working with. Presently, I'm working with the Ghana Education Service and I'm piloting in 2 districts, more than 1,000 teachers learning at the same time. Teachers are on break if you follow the education calendar, but they are learning. Our platforms are peaking and they are craving for knowledge. We don't want to leave the private schools behind because every teacher, whether public or private, contribute to reforms in education and contribute to building our future leaders. So we are having a package for private school teachers and we are running a competition for private school teachers, whereby teachers from this area, they will learn, they can compete based on their assessment records, and everything is online. Asynchronous training is what we are offering. We will be able to rank them and reward the best school. We want to promote the best 10 schools and even give an incentive to those who want to come on our Continuous Professional Development Program from 2024. So these are some of the things that the journey at Instill is teaching us and the lessons we are learning from our teachers and school leaders.
All right, Sarah, that was really in-depth and really great insights that you shared. I like the way you unpacked the way Instill Education works. I think whilst I was listening to you, one thing that stood out to me was the fact that there's this beauty or there's this wonderful thing that technology has brought to education, which I like, which is the ability to be able to gather data and then, unpack it to be able to know exactly what is happening, right? So there was this insight you shared about the fact that it looked as if initially you had less women and more men. So it proved that general consensus or general assumption that men are more interested in using technology and so on and so forth. And then there was this part that I found really exciting, and I want to give huge praise to your organization, which is the fact that you entered the Ghana space in 2022 and you were able to train 40,000 teachers within that period.
Yes. That's
really commendable. And I think what's even got me more excited was the fact that it was teachers from all of the 16 regions. I think there's there's a blueprint you are executing at your organization that, a lot more organizations especially within the education space have to come and, probably come and copy. You also highlighted the fact that a lot of the teachers who were using the platform, the peak periods were between 10 p.m., to 2-3 a.m. That's really, really interesting. There's this assumption even in Accra where network connectivity is supposed to be great, right? That typically after maybe 11, going from 11, 12, that's midnight-ish, internet connection is fast and is way better. So you typically have people using those periods to download and download movies, quote unquote, and all of those things. But it's a pretty good insight to be able to know that we have a collective body of teachers who are yearning and thirsting for knowledge, to add to themselves. It's really wonderful, hearing these things. My follow-up question, right, with the remarkable thing here is the fact that you were able to train 40,000 teachers in 2022. So that's as your first success, right? What other successes has your organization chalked so far?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. So after training these teachers, we were not in a hurry, and the lessons we learned, we're not in a hurry to continue training on the learning management platform. We realized we needed to develop an app, a mobile app, a user-friendly app, where everybody can have access to it. So we spent much time between January and April to develop an app. Presently speaking, Instill training modules are on this Android device. All you need is to have an Android device. And another advantage is we know how much it costs people to buy data. And especially if you are not having good connectivity, how it frustrates you. So we have built in an offline functionality on this app, which will go live very soon, whereby teachers who do not even have access to internet connectivity at all will not be left behind. We are focusing on inclusivity. We are leaving no teacher behind, no school leader behind in this journey of teacher capacity development. So whether you are in the remotest area in Ghana with zero internet connectivity, you can still learn when you are offline. And then when you get to anywhere that there's internet connectivity, your learnings and everything will automatically update to our system so that we can generate your reports, we can generate the dashboards, we can tell you how your learning is going on our platform. So this is what we are doing. We believe that learning should be a continuum, and so it should be. And adult learning, unlike our basic school, secondary school learning, that we are conditioned to learn in certain fashion, adults cannot learn in any conditioned mode. It should be flexible. Yeah. It should be relatable. They should take it at their own pace. So you pace the learning. You shouldn't say today we are going to learn on X and Y, so we finish all X and Y the same day. They should have it at their own pace. That's how the App Store platform is structured. If I start from, say, building my classroom culture, and I start with the introduction, and I get other things cannot continue, I should be able to come back and continue from where I left off. That is what we are promoting. Adults should take time to learn. And learning, you cannot stop. From birth to death, we only stop learning when you are dead. And as a teacher, with the kind of learners we are experiencing these days, technology-enhanced learning, they know more than their teacher what's happening in space. If you do not learn, your learners will outsmart you. So our teachers are always learning. Apart from the Android app and then the training we are doing, as I said, we are in Kenya, we are in South Africa, we are also working in Nigeria. We are working with governments and private sector for holistic workforce development. What I mean by holistic workforce development is that we are looking at even the pre-service space. Very soon, Instill Education is coming up with a higher education concept. We are establishing a higher education institution whereby the same flexibility mode of learning that goes into our teacher capacity development platform will come on our higher education programs as well. If I am a private school teacher, my earning is nowhere near to take me to a full-time degree program. But Instill is bringing this flexibility, the modular base, learn at your own pace, build credentials. We call it the micro-credentialing. Build credentials, and that will lead towards a qualification that will sustain you in this profession. You know, people get into teaching, especially the private sector, not because they want to teach. So when we are picking careers, hardly do people want to teach. But you realize that, okay, if I go to training college, I get allowance. I don't pay fees and all those stuff. So let me go there. But the private school teacher doesn't have that. That guy maybe need 1 or 2 grades to better to go. Or because of financial constraints, he needs to work and also go to school at the same time. But those earnings cannot pay university fees. So we are bringing in this flexibility whereby you can pay as low as maybe $20 equivalent a month, and you will still be going to school, and you will still be building credentials, so that you do not leave your job, because the income that is going to make you pay the fees, if you leave, how are you going to sustain yourself? Don't expect to leave their job. And quite not too long ago, government came out through the National Teaching Council with directive that all private school teachers need to gain certain qualification, otherwise they will cease to operate. And these kind of directives bring panic fears to teachers who cannot pay or access this learning within the period given. So this intervention Instill is bringing on board is to train teachers right from pre-service till they end their career, they move out of the sector, that's retirement. And this, I think, is a very good opportunity. And no organization is running this on the continent, providing pre-service training and also providing professional development concurrently. You practice, you build your capacity, you are learning, you are delivering at the same time. And this is something Instill is doing, which is laudable. So those are the things we are doing.
Right. High praise to you and, the Instill Education organization. You're doing some really remarkable work. But I want us to delve into this.
Yeah.
You said to me earlier, Kwame, it's tough, but rewarding and fulfilling. Let's talk about the challenges you face in your line of business.
Right. I'll turn it from challenges to opportunities for us to learn. One of the issues is technology. In as much as we talk about EdTech, we cannot thrive. The technology is only a medium of training. But then how can we, if we are telling us that every 2 seconds a child should be enrolled in school, how can this happen if we want to go the snail pace? If we want to go the traditional approach of doing things, we need an enabler like technology to fast track the process. So internet connectivity really poor in some locations. However, the upscale offline functionality serves as remedy to challenges in connectivity. And also, it's also an opportunity for government and stakeholders, the telcos, to look into these present needs in society, to leverage on building technology. Because if MTN, for instance, is the biggest network in Ghana, and we have education going on this way, then MTN can zero-rate education activities so that everybody can access education freely. And these are some of the things we are advocating for as opportunities to contribute to the growth of the country, the growth of the continent towards achieving the goals of the SDGs. Targets of the SDGs. Another challenge is teacher buy-in to leveraging technology to enhance their skills. We are used to face-to-face training a lot. So sometimes you go to places and want people to sign on, you do everything for them, and they go like, oh, I don't have email address. I don't think I can access it. I don't like this technology thing. The basic question I ask myself is, are you on WhatsApp? And believe you me, our region, the Africa region, enjoys this WhatsApp, I think, more than any continent in the world. We are receiving our remittances. We are giving the stress calls to our family members outside Ghana and outside the continent. We are chit-chatting. We are doing everything. And I ask myself, you are on Facebook, you are doing stuff. If you can navigate those systems, then this is very easy for you. If you can navigate those complex systems, then navigating your way to learn to build your capacity is the easiest way for you. So these are some of the challenges we face. Notwithstanding, there's gradual shift towards acceptance. People have come to realize that if you want to be in this system, if you want to be relevant, unless you don't want to be that village champion. These days, there's no village champion teacher. You are in a community. You are part of a community. So if you want to exist in that community and communicate with people in the same community around the world, then you need to embrace technology. And it is working. The pandemic really exposed us and shot us to the level that we were not prepared, but we are working towards it. So these are the major challenges that are in the system. Apart from that, government is giving the opportunity for private sectors to operate in this system, because government alone cannot solve the problems. That's why organizations like Instill Education exist, to support government, build capacity, and meet the needs of the country. So this is what we do.
I like the way you change the perspective in that you chose to use opportunities instead of challenges. And I think you've spoken about it in a way and manner that's, aligns with that belief, because I think that if you focus on challenges, it makes your mind lag, but when you change it and you flip it on its head as an opportunity, it kicks in, the wonderful solution, and you'll be surprised about like how so many solutions will pop up in your head. I genuinely appreciate how you flipped it on its head. So clearly, we do need a lot more organizations like Instill Education. So what advice, we are wrapping up here, what advice would you have for individuals, entities who are looking to, come together, come into the marketplace to positively impact education in Ghana and Africa?
Thank you very much, Kwame. And this time, having worked with Instill Education One, and also as a private person who has worked closely with the Ministry of Education, I have insights, and I suggest that entities coming into this space should make sure that whatever intervention they are bringing aligns with the country's program. Ghana has its own program. So we look into the bigger picture and make sure whatever intervention we are bringing up to Ghana aligns with the country's program. The second one is we should ensure that we have contextualized our education materials. We cannot bring interventions, to say, whose language, whose environment, whose ambience and everything is foreign to Africa. It will be difficult for us to understand. Before we realize, we are watching faces and nodding heads, but we are not understanding. So we should contextualize our materials, not forgetting standardizing and following the best practices, so that we are not doing something that is off track. It fits into the country's system, we can relate to it, and it follows the standards, the best practices set internationally. The other thing I'll say is involve policymakers and users of your products and frequently engage them to make the intervention relevant to their needs. There's no way you can say you've developed a product and that's the final stage of it you want to give it. In the product development stage, you should have room for refinement. You should have room for people to come in to question it, to make it a better product. So if the policymakers is the users, usually we draft programs, we forget that the user needs to be involved. The teacher, the feedback of the end user is very important. So building robust feedback mechanisms. Check in your products quarterly or half yearly to see how your users are using it. Are they using the intervention? Are they using the new knowledge? How are they interpreting it? How does it gradually impact? I said it's very long, but we can see short-term impact. How is it gradually influencing changes in the school, in the education setting? And in this way, you become relevant. Let's go sustainable. Sometimes intervention comes and it is short-lived. But Instill Education, we say we are a sustainable partner. The day Ghana Education Services we cease to exist, or the Ministry of Education says we cease to exist, that is the day we will cease to exist. But interventions that are short, that are piloted and they end at pilot, then they cause more distraction than good. So we should make sure that we look at the scalability and the sustainability plan of our interventions so that we don't short-live it, but we sustain the interest to bring about the changes we want. And the last one I will share is collaboration. We have different stakeholders, especially private organizations in the education space. We are not here to compete, but we are here to collaborate to make the system better. So collaborate with organizations in your space. There's no need to reinvent the wheels. Sometimes you learn from each other so that you use your strengths to help one another to support the education system. At the end of the day, it is the teacher and the learner in Ghana, that remote village or that high-class city that needs this intervention. And we need to collaborate to ensure that whatever we are bringing on board lives up to expectation, influence changes in policy, influence system changes in our education system, so that when we get to 2030 and we get to the end of year SDG reviews, if we may not have achieved, at least we would have gone beyond the half mark. And if we are building new strategy, we wouldn't start from scratch, but we will build on from where we have left off. So this is the piece of advice I would like to give to sister entities and organizations working in Ghana and Africa.
I could listen to you all day. You touched on keeping in mind Ghana's overarching agenda for education. All of these sister organizations or individuals who are looking to enter the space need to have that in mind, one. Number two was the fact that you need to have a strong feedback loop, right? Making sure that the users of your intervention or whatnot are really getting the benefits that you set the intervention up for. The third one was to keep in mind the scalability plan for the intervention.
Yes.
And the last one was solid, which is collaboration, because education is bigger than all of us and we want it to be better. Sarah, well, two quotes came to mind as you were talking. I mean, all throughout the conversation. One of which is everyone who remembers his own education remembers teachers, not methods and techniques. The teacher is at the heart of the education system. Exactly. And the second quote, which I actually picked up from somebody I really do admire a lot. He says, if a child has a teacher who cares and a parent who doesn't, the child is likely to succeed. If a child has a parent who cares and a teacher who doesn't, they are likely to succeed. If they have both a teacher and a parent who cares, they are guaranteed success. But if they have a teacher who doesn't care and a parent who couldn't care less, they are guaranteed for failure. Sarah, thank you so much for having this session with us. Your optimism and passion is evident and infectious, and it's a blessing to have you and your organization, within the education space. Thank you so much for who you are and what you do. Keep the fire burning and continue to make transformational change and impact one teacher at a time. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today. Your optimism and your passion is evident and really infectious, and it's really a blessing to have you and your organization within the education space. Thank you so much for who you are and what you do. Please continue to keep the fire burning and continue to make transformational change and impact one teacher at a time. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure, Kwame. Thank you for having me.
Right.
And we are in the space together. So we continue to do our best.
Definitely.
I believe I'm very optimistic that we will see the change. It will not bypass us.
Yes. Definitely. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So guys, thank you so much for listening. I'm sure you enjoyed the session with Sarah Osei. There was a lot to unpack. There was a bit for teachers, there was a bit for entrepreneurs, there was a bit for sister organizations who are looking to positively impact the education space. It was really great. I picked up quite a lot. I've written there's this page to my notebook is really full because I was picking up, really good insights that Sarah shared with us today. Until next episode, please stay safe.